There is a smell that almost everyone recognizes instantly. It hits you the moment you open the door of a brand new car. And for decades, it has been associated with excitement, luxury, and the thrill of something new. People seek it out. Some deliberately keep their windows closed just to hold onto it longer. But that smell is not the scent of quality or freshness. It is the odor of more than 200 volatile organic compounds off-gassing. From every plastic, rubber, foam, carpet, adhesive, and coated surface inside the vehicle. And among those compounds are substances officially classified as confirmed human carcinogens. Consider how much time the average person spends inside a car. Commuting, school runs, errands, road trips. For many people, that adds up to 90 minutes or more every day. Over the course of a year, that is over 500 hours inside a vehicle cabin. And every one of those hours, in a brand new or newer car, involves inhaling a complex mixture of toxic chemicals. In a small, poorly ventilated, enclosed space. The science on this has been accumulating for years, and it is unambiguous. The new car smell comes from volatile organic compounds, known as VOCs, emitted by the interior materials of the vehicle. The dashboard, seats, carpet, headliner, foam padding, plastic panels, adhesives, and vinyl coatings all release these compounds as they off-gas. From the manufacturing and assembly process, the combination of hundreds of these chemicals in the confined air of a car cabin creates the characteristic smell. Research confirmed that the odor-producing components of new car interiors alone consist of more than 200 distinct VOC species. The specific chemicals of greatest concern are well identified. Benzene is the most alarming. It is classified as a confirmed human carcinogen by the world's leading cancer research authority, based on sufficient evidence for causing cancer in humans. Benzene has no safe threshold. Even low-level chronic exposure has been directly linked to leukemia, particularly acute myeloid leukemia, and to cancers of the head and neck. Formaldehyde is the second major concern. It is also classified as a confirmed human carcinogen. It causes nasal and nasopharyngeal cancers, and has been associated with leukemia. Eye irritation begins at formaldehyde concentrations of approximately 0.2 parts per million, which corresponds to 210 micrograms per cubic meter. At 30 parts per million, disease symptoms appear. Acetaldehyde is classified as a possible human carcinogen, and is present in new car emissions alongside formaldehyde. Toluene causes neurological damage with long-term exposure, including headaches, dizziness, and memory impairment, and is associated with developmental effects in fetuses when pregnant women are exposed. Styrene, another possible human carcinogen, affects the nervous system and blood-forming tissues. Real-world testing of new vehicles has found these compounds at concentrations that exceed established guideline levels. Government vehicle air quality inspections have detected benzene at 2.6 times the guideline limit in a tested import model. A separate model was found to have styrene at more than 9 times the recommended level, measuring 2072.6 micrograms per cubic meter against a guideline of 220. These are vehicles that were being driven by real people who had no idea their daily commute was exposing them to carcinogens at several times the permitted concentration. The factor that makes all of this dramatically worse is heat. A research team published their findings in the international journal PNAS Nexus in 2024, after measuring 12 different VOCs inside a new car over 7 days. Under summer conditions with outdoor temperatures ranging from 25 to 46 degrees Celsius, the results were alarming. Formaldehyde concentrations frequently exceeded the indoor air quality limit of 100 micrograms per cubic meter, reaching above 200 micrograms in some measurements. Out of 40 measurements taken over 7 days, formaldehyde exceeded the limit 15 times. Acetaldehyde peaked at 140 micrograms per cubic meter, and exceeded its limit of 50 micrograms in 25 of 40 measurements. The research concluded that the single most influential variable driving these elevated concentrations was not outdoor air temperature, but the surface temperature of the interior materials themselves. The hotter the dashboard, the seats, and the door panels become, the more rapidly and in greater quantities they release their toxic compounds. When a car is parked in direct sunlight on a hot day, the temperature inside the cabin can reach between 60 and 80 degrees Celsius. The dashboard surface may exceed that. When you open the door and sit down in that environment, you are stepping into a space where VOC concentrations have been building. In a sealed, superheated enclosure for hours, a separate line of research found that concentrations of certain harmful particles inside vehicle cabins can increase by as much as 40,000 times at high temperatures compared to ambient conditions. These are not marginal differences. These are extreme concentrations of toxic compounds in the space where you breathe. Studies examining the duration of exposure required to create health risk found that spending as little as 20 to 30 minutes inside a new car can expose a person to formaldehyde, benzene, and acetaldehyde at levels that exceed recommended safety thresholds. A person who commutes 90 minutes per day in a new vehicle accumulates formaldehyde exposure that exceeds guideline limits on a daily basis. This is not a dramatic one-time exposure. It is a quiet, invisible, daily accumulation that compounds over months and years. The situation is made worse by a common habit. Many new car owners keep the windows closed to preserve the smell, or even store the car with protective plastic wrap still on the seats and dashboard. Plastic wrap does not slow the off-gassing of VOCs. It traps them, causing concentrations to build even higher. Inside the sealed cabin, the first time you open the door, after the car has been wrapped and parked in the sun, you are inhaling a concentrated burst of everything that accumulated while it was closed. Here is how to protect yourself, starting immediately. The single most effective action is pre-ventilation before entering. Open all 4 doors or windows, and stand outside the vehicle for 5 minutes before getting in. This dramatically reduces VOC concentrations in the cabin air. After the initial airing, drive with windows open, or set the ventilation system to fresh air intake rather than recirculation. Recirculation mode keeps contaminated cabin air cycling without dilution. Use fresh air intake whenever you are in a newer vehicle. During the first 1 to 3 months after purchasing a new vehicle, treat every entry as a ventilation opportunity. This is the highest risk period for VOC exposure, because concentrations are at their peak and decline over time as the materials off-gas and stabilize. Maximize ventilation during this period, and minimize time spent in the car with all windows closed. When parking in sunlight, use a windshield sunshade. Preventing the dashboard from reaching extreme temperatures significantly reduces the rate at which VOCs are released into the cabin. Parking in shade or underground also helps substantially. For in-car air purifiers, understand what they can and cannot do. Standard HEPA-based air purifiers effectively remove particulate matter, including fine dust, but they do not capture gaseous VOCs. To reduce VOC concentrations, you need a car air purifier that contains an activated carbon filter. Carbon adsorption is the mechanism that captures gaseous organic compounds. Look specifically for units that combine HEPA filtration with activated carbon. When purchasing for VOC reduction, avoid adding chemical air fresheners, spray fragrances, or scented products inside the car. In an environment that already contains elevated levels of airborne chemicals, adding more synthetic fragrance compounds increases the total chemical load unnecessarily. If you want to reduce odor, activated charcoal deodorizer bags are a non-chemical option. Before closing, a few safety notes. The risk described in this video is from chronic daily accumulation over months and years, not from a single drive. One trip in a new car will not cause cancer. The concern is the repeated, daily exposure that compounds over the lifetime of vehicle ownership. Symptoms such as frequent headaches, eye irritation, dizziness, or throat discomfort that appear specifically when driving and resolve after leaving the car may indicate elevated chemical exposure in your cabin air and are worth discussing with a doctor. Individual vehicles vary in their off-gassing levels, depending on manufacturing materials, age, and storage conditions. The practices described here are precautionary measures, supported by the available evidence, not a guarantee of zero risk. The new car smell is not a reward. It is a warning. Knowing what it actually is gives you the information to make a simple choice. Open the window. Let it air. Protect the people inside your car. Those small habits, practiced consistently, are how you reduce a real, documented risk in one of the most common spaces in modern life. If this video helped you, subscribe and share it with someone who just bought a new car. Leave a comment letting us know whether you have been ventilating your vehicle or whether this was news to you. We will see you in the next one.